You're drifting 30 feet below the surface of a coral reef, weightless in the crystal clear water, when suddenly the rock beside you begins to move. What you thought was part of the reef itself, mottled brown and textured like weathered stone, flows like liquid mercury, transforming before your eyes. 8 graceful arms unfurl from what seemed to be coral, and 2 alien eyes, ancient and intelligent, regard you with curiosity. In the span of 3 heartbeats, this master of disguise shifts from invisible to breathtaking, a creature so extraordinary it seems pulled from the pages of science fiction. Welcome to Midnight Deep Dive, where knowledge becomes a lullaby. Have you ever been scuba diving before? I'll be honest with you, I have a deep fear of the ocean, so I'll be relying on the brave accounts of marine biologists, underwater photographers, and adventurous divers to guide us through the mysteries of the deep. If you've had your own underwater encounters, I'd love to hear about them in the comments below. And now, let's begin our descent. We're diving deep into the mysterious world of these 8-armed wonders. Chapter 1: Ancient Origins and Evolution. Let's travel back in time, back through the mists of deep history, to an ocean that would be almost unrecognizable today. Picture the seas of 300 million years ago, warm, shallow waters teeming with creatures that seem like something from a fever dream. Massive armored fish glide through kelp forests, while enormous sea scorpions patrol the depths. It's in these primordial waters that our story begins, with the earliest ancestors of modern octopuses taking their first graceful steps, or should I say, their first graceful glides, into evolutionary history. The early cephalopods were quite different from the soft-bodied octopuses we know today. Imagine creatures encased in straight, cone-shaped shells that could stretch longer than a school bus. These were the orthosauras, the ancient giants whose shells littered the ocean floor like discarded ice cream cones. But over millions of years, something remarkable happened. The protective shells became smaller, more curved, and eventually, in the case of octopuses, disappeared entirely. This loss of the shell wasn't a step backward, it was a leap into freedom. Without that heavy, cumbersome armor, these early octopuses could squeeze into the tiniest crevices, flow like water through coral formations, and develop the incredible flexibility that makes them such masterful escape artists today. It's as if they traded protection for possibility, rigidity for infinite adaptability. The fossil record tells us a fascinating story of survival. While the mighty dinosaurs dominated the land, octopuses were quietly perfecting their art beneath the waves. When the great asteroid struck Earth 66 million years ago, sending the dinosaurs into extinction, octopuses barely paused in their evolutionary journey. They'd already learned the secret of adaptability, the art of being simultaneously everywhere and nowhere. What's truly remarkable is how octopuses fit into the great family tree of mollusks. They share ancestry with humble snails and clams, yet they've evolved along such a different path that they might as well be from another planet. While their cousins, the snails, carry their homes on their backs, octopuses became nomads of the sea. While clams filter feed in peaceful gardens, octopuses became cunning hunters with eyes that rival those of vertebrates. Consider their relationship to other cephalopods, the family that includes squid, cuttlefish, and the ancient chambered nautilus. Each took a different approach to the puzzle of underwater life. Squid became the jets of the ocean, built for speed and life in the open water. Cuttlefish became the artists, masters of hypnotic color displays and ambush hunting in seagrass beds. The nautilus, bless its ancient heart, kept the shell and became a living fossil, a gentle reminder of what all cephalopods once were. But octopuses, they chose the path of the shapeshifter, the problem solver, the master of adaptation. They became the ninjas of the sea, capable of vanishing in plain sight, thinking their way out of problems, and turning the very flexibility of their bodies into their greatest strength. Evolution, it seems, was feeling particularly creative when it came to octopuses. Chapter 2: Anatomy of a Marvel. Let's take a gentle journey through the architecture of wonder that is an octopus body. A form so alien, yet so perfect it seems designed by some cosmic artist with a flair for the extraordinary. Imagine holding one in your mind's eye, feeling the cool, smooth texture of its skin, watching the play of colors ripple across its surface like living art. First, let's settle a question that has puzzled many. Do octopuses have 8 arms or 8 tentacles? The answer is arms, beautiful, intelligent arms. Each one is a marvel of engineering, containing roughly 40 million nerve cells and over 300 chemotactic suckers. Think of each arm as having its own mini-brain, capable of tasting, touching, and even making decisions independently. You could theoretically cut off an octopus arm, and it would continue to hunt and feed itself for hours, following patterns laid down by evolution over millions of years. These arms don't just move, they flow. Watch an octopus navigate a coral reef, and you'll see what looks like liquid intelligence in motion. Each arm can bend at any point along its length, creating S-curves and spirals that would be impossible for any creature with joints. The suckers along each arm work in perfect coordination, tasting the water, feeling for prey, and gripping surfaces with a strength that can support the octopus's entire body weight. Now let's journey to the center of this magnificent creature to discover one of nature's most alien architectural decisions. An octopus doesn't have just one heart, it has 3. 2 of these hearts, called branchial hearts, are dedicated solely to pumping blood through the gills, ensuring that oxygen-rich water constantly flows over these delicate organs. The 3rd heart, the systemic heart, pumps blood to the rest of the body. But here's where things get truly otherworldly. When an octopus swims, that main heart stops beating. This is why octopuses prefer to crawl rather than swim. Swimming is exhausting when your primary heart takes a break every time you jet through the water. It's as if they're constantly choosing between grace and endurance, and more often than not, they choose the elegant crawl over the dramatic escape. Their blood runs blue, not metaphorically, but literally. Instead of iron-based hemoglobin like ours, octopuses use copper-based hemocyanin to carry oxygen. This gives their blood a beautiful blue color and works wonderfully in cold ocean water, though it's less efficient than our red blood when temperatures rise. It's another reminder that these creatures evolved for a world very different from our warm, air-filled existence. Perhaps most remarkable of all is how an octopus thinks. 2/3 of its neurons aren't in its brain at all, they're distributed throughout its arms. Imagine if your hands could think independently, if they could explore, investigate, and even hunt while you focused on other things. This distributed intelligence means an octopus can literally be thinking about 8 different things at once, each arm processing information and making decisions in real time. The central brain, nestled safely inside the head, serves as mission control, but it's more of a collaborative commander than a dictatorial ruler. This neural architecture allows for the kind of multitasking that would leave us exhausted, simultaneously hunting with 2 arms, exploring a cave with another 2, keeping watch with the eyes, and maintaining camouflage across the entire body. Their boneless bodies present both incredible advantages and unique challenges. Without a skeleton, an octopus can compress itself through any opening larger than its beak, the only hard part of its body. A 600-pound giant Pacific octopus can squeeze through a hole the size of a silver dollar. It's as if they're made of intelligent water, flowing into spaces that seem impossibly small. Yet this flexibility comes with a cost. Without bones to anchor their muscles, octopuses have to work harder to maintain their shape and generate force. Watch an octopus arm lift a rock, and you're seeing a hydraulic system in action, muscles contracting and relaxing in waves to create movement and strength. Chapter 3: Masters of Disguise. Step into the world of the ultimate illusionist, where reality bends and shifts with each passing moment. An octopus's skin is not merely a covering, it's a living canvas, a dynamic display system that makes our most advanced technology look primitive by comparison. Imagine skin that thinks, that responds not just to the octopus's conscious will, but to its emotions, its instincts, and the ever-changing environment around it. The secret lies in millions of tiny cells called chromatophores, each one a microscopic bag of colored pigment surrounded by radiating muscles. When these muscles contract, the pigment spreads out like spilled paint, creating a flash of color. When they relax, the pigment condenses into a tiny point, and the color fades. Red chromatophores for warm tones, yellow for sunshine hues, and brown for earthy camouflage, all controlled by the octopus's nervous system in real time. But color is just the beginning of this masterpiece. Beneath the chromatophores lie layers of reflective cells called iridophores and leucophores. These create the shimmering silvers and whites, the metallic sheens that make an octopus look like it's been touched by starlight. Together, these cellular artists can create almost any pattern, any texture, any illusion the octopus desires. Watch an octopus settle onto a coral head and witness magic in slow motion. First comes the color match, reds and pinks blooming across its skin like sunrise. Then the texture shift, what was smooth becomes rough and bumpy, perfectly matching the coral's surface. Specialized skin muscles called papillae rise and fall, creating the physical texture of whatever the octopus is trying to mimic. In less than a second, a living creature becomes indistinguishable from rock, coral, or sand. The mimic octopus of Indonesia has taken this art to theatrical extremes. This remarkable creature doesn't just disappear, it transforms. Watch it flow across the sea floor, and suddenly you're looking at a flatfish, complete with the undulating swimming motion. Blink and it's become a mantis shrimp, arms tucked close to its body, moving with that characteristic jerky gait. Another transformation, and it's a sea snake, arm extended and rippling through the water with sinuous grace. Each performance is perfectly choreographed. The octopus doesn't just change color and shape, it changes behavior, movement, even posture to complete the illusion. It's method acting at its finest, a complete transformation into another creature. Scientists have documented this one species mimicking over 15 different animals, and they suspect the repertoire is much larger. But perhaps the most beautiful camouflage happens when octopuses move through kelp forests or seagrass beds. Here, they become living shadows, their skin rippling with patterns of light and dark that perfectly match the dancing interplay of sunlight filtering through swaying fronds. Watch one glide through this underwater cathedral, and you'll see how it seems to be made of the same stuff as the dappled light itself. The speed of these transformations defies belief. From transparent to opaque, from smooth to spiky, from brown to brilliant red, all in the time it takes you to blink. This isn't just camouflage. It's communication, emotional expression, and art all rolled into one. An agitated octopus flashes through colors like a living mood ring. A curious one might display waves of color that ripple from arm to arm, and a frightened octopus can turn ghost pale in an instant, then explode into a display of warning colors that would make a neon sign jealous. The complexity of these displays hints at something deeper, a language we're only beginning to understand. When two octopuses meet, they don't just change color randomly. They engage in what can only be described as conversations, patterns flowing back and forth across their skin like visual poetry. Sometimes these displays are aggressive, sharp patterns and contrasting colors that seem to say back off. Other times, they're gentle, subtle shifts that might be the octopus equivalent of a friendly greeting. What's truly remarkable is that all of this happens automatically. An octopus doesn't have to think about matching its surroundings any more than you have to think about breathing. Its nervous system constantly samples the environment through its incredibly sophisticated eyes and adjusts the skin accordingly. It's as if the octopus has internalized the very essence of its world, becoming not just a resident of the reef, but a living, breathing part of it. Chapter 4: Intelligence Beyond Measure. Welcome to one of the most fascinating mysteries in the animal kingdom. A mind so alien yet so familiar that it challenges everything we thought we knew about intelligence itself. In the vast blue wilderness of our oceans lives a creature that can solve puzzles, use tools, remember faces, and display what can only be called personality, all while operating with a nervous system that evolved completely independently from our own. Let me tell you the story of Inky, a common octopus who lived at the National Aquarium of New Zealand. Inky's enclosure had a small gap at the top where the lid didn't quite meet the glass. Most creatures would never notice such a detail, but Inky was watching, learning, waiting. One night, when the aquarium was dark and quiet, Inky made his move. He squeezed through that impossibly small gap, crawled across the floor, found a drainage pipe, and followed it all the way to the ocean. By morning, Inky was free, leaving behind only wet tracks on the floor and a mystery that captivated the world. But Inky's great escape was just one of thousands of stories that reveal the remarkable intelligence of octopuses. In laboratories around the world, researchers have watched these creatures solve multi-step puzzles that would challenge a young child. They've seen octopuses figure out how to open child-proof bottles, navigate complex mazes, and even learn to anticipate feeding times and gather at the front of their enclosures when they know humans are approaching. Perhaps most remarkably, octopuses are among the few invertebrates that use tools, and not just simple tools, but sophisticated ones that they modify for specific purposes. Picture a coconut octopus walking along the sea floor, carrying two halves of a coconut shell like an underwater nomad with portable shelter. When danger threatens, it can quickly assemble these shells into a protective sphere, creating an instant fortress. But the coconut octopus doesn't just use found objects. It actively seeks out the best shells, cleans them, and transports them over considerable distances. Other octopuses have been observed collecting rocks and shells to build elaborate walls around their dens, creating multi-room homes with front yards and garbage dumps. They're underwater architects, designing living spaces that suit their individual needs and preferences. Some prefer minimalist dens with just a few well-chosen rocks. Others create elaborate fortresses with multiple entrances and carefully arranged decorations. What's perhaps most touching about octopus intelligence is how individual it is. Researchers who work with octopuses regularly speak about their distinct personalities. There's the shy octopus who prefers to hide and observe, the bold one who immediately investigates anything new in its environment, and the playful one who seems to enjoy interacting with humans and solving puzzles just for the joy of it. At the Seattle Aquarium, keepers tell stories of an octopus named Alice who learned to recognize individual staff members and would react differently to each one. She was playful with some, wary of others, and seemed to have definite preferences about who she wanted to interact with on any given day. When her favorite keeper left for vacation, Alice became noticeably more reclusive, only becoming active again when that person returned. Even more remarkably, octopuses can learn by watching other octopuses. In controlled experiments, an octopus that has never seen a particular puzzle can learn to solve it by observing another octopus work through the problem. This observational learning, the foundation of culture and education in humans, exists in creatures whose last common ancestor with us lived over 500 million years ago. Their memory capabilities are equally astounding. Octopuses have been shown to remember human individuals for weeks or even months. They can navigate complex three-dimensional mazes from memory, return to favorite hunting grounds, and remember which areas have been productive and which have been dangerous. This spatial memory rivals that of mammals and birds, despite being produced by a completely different neural architecture. But perhaps the most profound aspect of octopus intelligence is what we might call their emotional complexity. Octopuses display what can only be described as moods. They have good days and bad days. They can be curious, playful, irritated, or content. They seem to experience something analogous to boredom. Octopuses in captivity become more active and engaged when given novel objects to explore and puzzles to solve. Some octopuses have been observed engaging in what appears to be play behavior, manipulating objects for no apparent purpose other than exploration and enjoyment. They'll spend hours investigating new additions to their environment, not seeking food or shelter, but seemingly driven by pure curiosity. The implications are profound and humbling. Here is intelligence that arose completely independently from our own, shaped by the pressures of life in an alien underwater world. Yet it solves problems, shows creativity, displays individual personality, and engages with its environment in ways that we can't help but recognize as genuinely intelligent. It suggests that intelligence, consciousness itself, might be a far more common feature of life than we ever imagined. Chapter 5: Life in the Depths. Imagine descending through layers of blue, each level revealing a different world, a different community of creatures adapted to their specific slice of the ocean. From the sun-dappled shallows, where wave action creates ever-shifting patterns of light, down to the eternal darkness of the abyss, where bioluminescent creatures create their own stars, octopuses have found ways to thrive in nearly every marine environment on Earth. In the tide pools of rocky coastlines, small octopuses no bigger than your thumb create miniature kingdoms among the barnacles and anemones. The Pacific red octopus, with its ruby-colored skin and delicate arms, might spend its entire life in a pool no larger than a bathtub. Here it learns to time its hunting with the tides, venturing out when the water is deepest and retreating to its rocky fortress when the tide retreats. These tiny worlds are complete ecosystems, and the octopus reigns as both predator and architect, rearranging shells and stones to create the perfect lair. Venture into deeper coastal waters, and you'll find the common octopus, perhaps the most adaptable of all the species. These are the suburban dwellers of the octopus world, making homes in everything from empty bottles to carefully constructed rock gardens. Watch one explore its territory, and you'll see a creature that knows every crevice, every hiding spot, every escape route in its neighborhood. They maintain mental maps of their domains with the precision of a surveyor, remembering where the best hunting spots are and which areas to avoid. The giant Pacific octopus represents the other extreme, a creature so large it seems to have stepped out of maritime legend. With arms that can span 30 feet and weighing as much as a grown man, these gentle giants inhabit the cold waters of the North Pacific. Despite their impressive size, they're remarkably reclusive, spending most of their time in dens that might be tucked under a rocky ledge or hidden in the twisted roots of a kelp holdfast. Their dens are works of art, elaborate constructions with multiple chambers, carefully arranged furniture of shells and rocks, and what can only be described as gardens where they cultivate algae and tend to their collection of interesting objects. But perhaps the most remarkable octopuses are those that have adapted to the deep ocean, that vast frontier that covers most of our planet, yet remains largely unexplored. Here, in waters so deep that sunlight has never penetrated, live creatures that seem designed for alien worlds. The glass octopus, nearly transparent and ethereally beautiful, drifts through the midnight zone like a living ghost. The Dumbo octopus, with its ear-like fins and gentle undulating movements, navigates the abyssal plains with grace that defies the crushing pressure of depths that would instantly destroy most surface creatures. These deep-sea octopuses face challenges that their shallow-water cousins could never imagine. Food is scarce in the deep ocean, arriving as a gentle rain of organic matter from the sunlit world above. Competition is fierce for every scrap, every opportunity. Yet they've found ways to thrive, developing specialized hunting strategies and metabolisms that allow them to survive on minimal resources. The daily life of an octopus is a study in efficiency and patience. Most are nocturnal hunters, emerging from their dens as darkness falls to prowl their territories. They're opportunistic predators with surprisingly diverse diets. Crabs and shellfish form the backbone of most octopus meals, prey items that can be cracked open with their powerful beaks or dissolved with specialized enzymes. But they'll also take fish, shrimp, worms, and even other cephalopods when the opportunity arises. Their hunting strategies are as varied as their environments. Some are ambush predators, lying motionless among the coral until an unsuspecting victim wanders too close. Others are active foragers, probing every crevice and turning over every rock in search of hidden prey. The blue-ringed octopus, despite its diminutive size, is an efficient predator of crabs and small fish, using its potent venom to quickly subdue prey much larger than itself. Home construction is serious business for an octopus. A good den is more than just shelter. It's protection, nursery, workshop, and storage facility all rolled into one. Octopuses are meticulous housekeepers, constantly rearranging their homes to maintain optimal conditions. They create separate areas for different activities: sleeping chambers, feeding areas, and waste disposal sites. Some species even maintain gardens, cultivating algae and other small organisms that provide both food and camouflage. The social lives of octopuses are more complex than we once believed. While they're primarily solitary creatures, they do interact in sophisticated ways. They have territories that they defend, but these territories often overlap, creating complex neighborhoods where individual octopuses maintain relationships with their neighbors. These relationships can be competitive, cooperative, or simply tolerant, depending on the species, the environment, and the individual personalities involved. During breeding season, these normally solitary creatures must overcome their antisocial tendencies to find mates. The courtship rituals that follow are among the most elaborate and dangerous in the animal kingdom, involving displays of color, pattern, and behavior that can last for hours or even days. Chapter 6: Reproduction and Life Cycles. In the quiet depths where octopuses make their homes, one of nature's most bittersweet dramas unfolds. A story of devotion so complete, sacrifice so absolute, that it touches something deep in our understanding of love and loss. The reproductive cycle of an octopus is unlike almost anything else in the animal kingdom. A tale that begins with elaborate courtship and ends with the ultimate parental sacrifice. Picture two octopuses meeting in the dappled light of a coral garden. The male, often smaller and more slender than his potential mate, must approach with extreme caution. Female octopuses are formidable predators, perfectly capable of turning a suitor into a meal if he's not careful. But when conditions are right, when the female is receptive and the male approaches with the proper signals, what follows is one of the ocean's most remarkable courtship displays. The male begins his dance at a safe distance, his skin rippling with patterns and colors that speak a language older than words. Waves of silver and gold cascade across his body, punctuated by displays of deeper blues and purples. Each pattern, each color sequence, carries meaning, attraction, intention, submission, respect. He's quite literally wearing his heart on his sleeve, or in this case, across his entire body. If the female is interested, she responds with her own display, patterns that might indicate acceptance, curiosity, or conditional interest. This visual conversation can continue for hours, with both octopuses gradually moving closer as trust builds. The male may offer gifts, a shell, an interesting rock, or even a fresh crab, tokens of his suitability as a mate. The actual mating process is both intimate and bizarre by human standards. The male has a specialized arm called a hectocotylus, which he uses to transfer packets of sperm to the female. In some species, this arm is so specialized that early scientists thought it was a separate parasitic worm. The male must insert this arm into the female's mantle cavity, a process that requires tremendous trust and coordination from both partners. For the male, this mating often represents the pinnacle and end of his life. Many male octopuses die shortly after mating, their biological purpose fulfilled. Some females, if they're particularly hungry, may indeed make a meal of their partner, though this behavior varies greatly between species and circumstances. It's a harsh reality that speaks to the unforgiving economics of life in the ocean, where every opportunity for nutrition must be seized. But it's the female's story that truly breaks the heart. After mating, she begins the process of creating the next generation, and for most octopus species, this process will consume the rest of her life in the most literal sense. She seeks out the perfect den, a protected cave or crevice where she can safely tend her developing eggs. The eggs, when they come, arrive in translucent strings that look like tiny pearls strung on gossamer threads. Depending on the species, there might be hundreds, thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of these precious capsules. The female arranges them carefully in her den, often attaching them to the ceiling where they'll receive the best water circulation. What follows is a vigil that can last anywhere from a few weeks to several months, depending on the species and water temperature. The female rarely leaves her den, and when she does, it's only for the briefest forays to clean the eggs or chase away potential predators. She stops eating, dedicating every ounce of her energy to caring for her developing offspring. With her arms, she gently caresses the egg strings, creating water currents that bring fresh oxygen to the developing embryos and carry away waste. She cleans each egg individually, removing any debris or potential parasites. When predators approach, she defends her nursery with fierce determination, willing to fight creatures much larger than herself to protect her precious cargo. As weeks pass, the female grows thinner and weaker. Her skin loses its vibrancy, her movements become slower and more labored. She's literally consuming herself to keep her eggs alive, her body breaking down its own tissues to fuel this marathon of maternal care. It's a level of devotion that rivals anything in the natural world. Finally, after what must seem like an eternity, the eggs begin to hatch. Tiny paralarvae, no bigger than grains of rice but perfect miniatures of their parents, emerge into the world. They're immediately swept up by the ocean currents, beginning a journey that will take them far from their birthplace. Most octopus species have a planktonic larval stage, drifting in the open ocean as they grow and develop. These paralarvae are tiny miracles of engineering, complete octopuses in miniature, with all the complexity of their parents, packed into bodies smaller than your pinky nail. They drift with the currents, feeding on microscopic plankton and growing slowly. This planktonic stage can last weeks or months, during which the young octopuses are at the mercy of currents, predators, and the vast randomness of the open ocean. The vast majority of these tiny travelers will never reach adulthood. They provide food for countless other creatures, from fish larvae to jellyfish to filter-feeding whales. It's a numbers game of staggering proportions. Produce thousands of offspring in hopes that a few will survive to continue the cycle. For the exhausted mother, her work is finally done. Having given everything to ensure the survival of her species, she quietly passes away in her den, her body eventually becoming nourishment for the very ecosystem that her children will inherit. It's a story of sacrifice so complete that it challenges our understanding of individual versus collective survival. Those few paralarvae that do survive their planktonic journey eventually settle to the bottom and begin their benthic life. They find their first dens, begin hunting their first prey, and start the process of learning to be octopuses. They'll grow quickly, their intelligence developing along with their bodies, until they too are ready to participate in this ancient cycle of life, death, and renewal. Chapter 7: Cultural Connections. Across every ocean and throughout human history, wherever people have encountered octopuses, they've been moved to create stories about these mysterious creatures. The octopus occupies a unique place in our collective imagination, simultaneously feared and revered, seen as both monster and marvel, representing everything from chaos and destruction to wisdom and transformation. In ancient Greek mythology, the octopus appeared in its most terrifying form as the kraken, a massive sea monster capable of destroying entire ships with its writhing tentacles. Sailors spoke in hushed whispers of encounters with creatures so large they were mistaken for islands, their arms reaching up from the depths to drag vessels and crews into the abyss. These stories, while fantastical, likely had their roots in encounters with giant squids or particularly large octopuses. Encounters that would have been terrifying for sailors with no understanding of these creatures' true nature. But the Greeks also recognized something more profound in these creatures. In some traditions, the octopus was associated with the labyrinth, that complex puzzle that required intelligence and persistence to navigate. Perhaps they recognized something in the octopus's problem-solving abilities, its capacity to find its way through complex three-dimensional environments that resembled their own mythological mazes. Travel to Japan, and the octopus takes on an entirely different cultural significance. Here, the taco octopus is not feared but celebrated, revered for its intelligence and adaptability. Japanese folklore is filled with stories of octopuses who could transform into humans, often appearing as beautiful women who would seduce fishermen, or as wise old men who would share the secrets of the sea. These shape-shifting abilities reflected the Japanese understanding of the octopus as a creature of transformation and hidden wisdom. In Japanese art, octopuses appear in countless forms, from delicate woodblock prints showing their graceful movements among coral gardens to more provocative works that explore themes of transformation and desire. The famous Dream of the Fisherman's Wife by Hokusai remains one of the most recognizable octopus images in world art, though it represents just one strand of a rich tapestry of octopus imagery in Japanese culture. The culinary traditions surrounding octopuses reveal another aspect of our relationship with these creatures. In Mediterranean cultures, octopus has been a prized food source for thousands of years. Greek fishermen developed elaborate techniques for catching and preparing octopus, believing that beating the freshly caught creature against rocks would tenderize its flesh. Traditional preparation methods involved slow cooking in clay pots, often with wine and herbs, creating dishes that were both sustenance and celebration. In Spanish and Portuguese coastal communities, octopus festivals mark the changing seasons and celebrate the fishermen's relationship with the sea. Pulpo a fera, the traditional Galician preparation of boiled octopus with paprika and olive oil, represents more than just a meal. It's a connection to generations of fishermen who depended on these creatures for survival. But perhaps nowhere is the octopus more deeply woven into cultural identity than in Pacific Island traditions. Hawaiian mythology speaks of Hiei, the octopus god who could take many forms and possessed great wisdom about the ocean's secrets. Hiei was often portrayed as a trickster figure, using intelligence and cunning to navigate complex situations, characteristics that perfectly capture the real octopus's problem-solving abilities. Polynesian navigation traditions recognized the octopus as a creature of intelligence and adaptation, qualities that were essential for long-distance ocean voyaging. Traditional tattoo designs often incorporated octopus motifs, symbolizing flexibility, intelligence, and the ability to survive in changing circumstances. In modern popular culture, the octopus has taken on new symbolic meanings while retaining many of its traditional associations. The creature appears as both villain and hero in countless films, books, and television shows. From the terrifying sea monsters of old adventure films to the wise and gentle characters in children's movies like Finding Dory, the octopus continues to capture our imagination. The James Bond films gave us perhaps one of cinema's most memorable octopus scenes, where the creature serves as both obstacle and ally. Science fiction has embraced the octopus as a model for alien intelligence, recognizing that these creatures represent a form of consciousness that evolved completely independently from our own. Contemporary art has found new ways to celebrate octopus intelligence and beauty. Museums around the world feature exhibits dedicated to cephalopods, and artists work with marine biologists to create installations that help people understand and appreciate these remarkable creatures. The octopus has become a symbol of the ocean's mystery and intelligence, representing both the known and unknown aspects of our planet's largest habitat. In literature, the octopus serves as a powerful metaphor for adaptability and intelligence. Authors use these creatures to explore themes of transformation, camouflage, and the hidden depths of consciousness. The octopus's ability to change color and shape has made it a perfect symbol for characters who must adapt to survive, who possess hidden depths, or who challenge our assumptions about intelligence and consciousness. Environmental movements have adopted the octopus as a symbol of ocean health and the interconnectedness of marine ecosystems. These creatures, with their intelligence and sensitivity to environmental changes, serve as indicators of ocean health. Their complex life cycles connect them to everything from microscopic plankton to large marine predators, making them powerful symbols for conservation efforts. The octopus in human culture reflects our own evolution of understanding. As we've learned more about these creatures' true nature, our stories have evolved from fear-based myths to celebrations of intelligence and adaptation. The octopus reminds us that intelligence takes many forms, that consciousness might be far more common in the natural world than we once believed, and that the ocean holds mysteries we're only beginning to understand. Chapter 8: Conservation and Coexistence. In the gentle currents of our changing oceans, octopuses face challenges that their millions of years of evolution never prepared them for. These masters of adaptation, these problem-solvers extraordinaire, now confront problems that can't be solved by changing color or squeezing into a smaller den. They face the unprecedented challenge of a rapidly changing world, one where the very chemistry of their ocean home is shifting beneath them. Climate change touches every aspect of octopus life in ways both subtle and profound. As ocean temperatures rise, the delicate balance that has sustained these creatures for eons begins to shift. Octopuses are exquisitely sensitive to temperature changes. Just a few degrees can affect their metabolism, their reproductive cycles, and their ability to obtain the oxygen they need from seawater. Their copper-based blood, so perfectly adapted to cold water, becomes less efficient as temperatures rise. For species like the giant Pacific octopus, which thrives in the cool waters of the North Pacific, warming oceans represent an existential threat. These creatures can't simply migrate to cooler waters. They are adapted to specific environments, specific prey species, specific ecological relationships that have been millions of years in the making. Ocean acidification presents another insidious challenge. As our oceans absorb more carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, they become more acidic. This change affects the shells of crabs and mollusks that form the foundation of many octopuses' diets. When prey animals struggle to build and maintain their protective shells, entire food webs begin to collapse. The octopus, sitting at the top of many marine food chains, feels these ripple effects throughout their ecosystem. The story becomes more complex when we consider the octopus's short lifespan and rapid generation turnover. Unlike long-lived species that might adapt slowly to changing conditions, octopuses live fast and reproduce quickly. This could be an advantage. Rapid generation turnover allows for faster evolutionary adaptation. But it also means that population crashes can happen quickly, with little time for recovery. Pollution presents challenges that test even the octopus's remarkable adaptability. Plastic pollution has reached every corner of our oceans, from surface waters to the deepest trenches. Octopuses, being intelligent and curious creatures, often investigate these foreign objects. Plastic bags can be mistaken for jellyfish. Microplastics contaminate their food sources, and discarded fishing gear creates deadly traps in their habitats. Chemical pollution adds another layer of complexity. Pesticides, industrial chemicals, and pharmaceutical compounds wash into coastal waters where many octopus species live and breed. These substances can affect octopus nervous systems, disrupting their ability to camouflage, hunt, and reproduce. For creatures whose intelligence is their greatest asset, neurological impacts are particularly devastating. Overfishing has created cascading effects throughout marine ecosystems. When we remove large predatory fish from ocean food webs, we create opportunities for octopuses to expand into new ecological niches. In some areas, octopus populations have increased as their competitors and predators decline. But this apparent success story masks deeper problems. Simplified ecosystems are less stable and more vulnerable to collapse. The aquarium trade presents both opportunities and challenges for octopus conservation. Public aquariums play a crucial role in education, helping people understand and appreciate these remarkable creatures. Watching an octopus solve puzzles or interact with its environment creates emotional connections that foster conservation awareness. But capturing wild octopuses for display raises ethical questions about removing intelligent, short-lived creatures from their natural habitats. Marine protected areas represent one of our most powerful tools for octopus conservation. These underwater sanctuaries provide safe havens where octopuses can hunt, reproduce, and thrive without human interference. The most successful protected areas are those that encompass entire ecosystems, protecting not just octopuses, but the complex web of relationships they depend on. But protection efforts must be thoughtfully designed. Octopuses have complex life cycles that often involve both benthic adults and planktonic larvae. A protected area might successfully conserve adult breeding populations, but if the larvae drift into unprotected waters where they face different threats, conservation efforts may fall short. Sustainable fishing practices offer another pathway toward coexistence. Traditional fishing communities often have generations of knowledge about octopus behavior and ecology. Working with these communities to develop sustainable harvesting practices, methods that allow octopus populations to maintain their reproductive cycles while still providing livelihoods for fishing families, represents a win-win approach to conservation. Citizen science initiatives are revealing new insights about octopus populations and distribution. Scuba divers, snorkelers, and coastal communities contribute observations and photographs that help scientists track octopus populations, document new behaviors, and identify conservation priorities. These programs also create opportunities for people to develop personal connections with octopuses and their habitats. Research and monitoring efforts continue to reveal the extent of human impacts on octopus populations. Scientists use innovative techniques to study these elusive creatures, from genetic analysis of tissue samples to satellite tracking of ocean conditions. This research helps identify which species are most vulnerable and which conservation strategies are most effective. Education remains perhaps the most important conservation tool. When people understand that octopuses are intelligent, sensitive creatures with complex behaviors and emotional lives, they're more likely to support conservation efforts. Schools, aquariums, and marine science centers play crucial roles in sharing the wonder of octopus biology and the urgency of ocean conservation. The story of octopus conservation is ultimately a story about our relationship with the ocean itself. These creatures serve as ambassadors for marine ecosystems, their intelligence and charisma helping people connect emotionally with ocean health. Their sensitivity to environmental changes makes them important indicator species. Their well-being reflects the health of entire marine ecosystems. Looking toward the future, coexistence with octopuses requires us to think like an octopus, to be adaptable, intelligent, and creative in our problem-solving. We need policies that protect entire ecosystems, not just individual species. We need fishing practices that work with natural cycles rather than against them. We need pollution controls that consider the cumulative effects of multiple stressors on marine life. Most importantly, we need to recognize that octopuses and all marine life have intrinsic value beyond their utility to humans. These creatures have been perfecting their art of survival for hundreds of millions of years. They've witnessed the rise and fall of countless other species, survived ice ages and mass extinctions, and developed forms of intelligence that continue to amaze and humble us. Our challenge is to find ways to share this blue planet that honor both human needs and the remarkable diversity of life that fills our oceans. The octopus, with its alien intelligence and ancient wisdom, offers us a different perspective on what it means to be successful, what it means to be intelligent, and what it means to be truly adapted to life on Earth. Chapter 9: Mysteries Still Unsolved. Even after decades of dedicated research, after countless hours of observation and experimentation, the octopus remains one of nature's most enigmatic creatures. For every question we've answered about these remarkable beings, two more seem to emerge from the depths of mystery. Tonight, as we near the end of our journey together, let's explore the frontiers of octopus science, those tantalizing questions that keep marine biologists awake at night and inspire the next generation of ocean explorers. Perhaps the most profound mystery involves the nature of octopus consciousness itself. We've established that octopuses are intelligent, that they solve problems and display individual personalities. But do they experience consciousness in a way we would recognize? When an octopus changes color, is it making a deliberate choice, or is it an automatic response? When it decorates its den with carefully selected shells and rocks, is it expressing something like artistic preference? Recent research has revealed that octopuses spend a significant portion of their time in what appears to be sleep, complete with rapid eye movement phases that resemble the REM sleep associated with dreaming in mammals. During these periods, their skin flickers through patterns and colors, leading some researchers to wonder, do octopuses dream? And if they do, what might those dreams contain? Imagine an octopus dreaming of drifting through kelp forests, its arms trailing in gentle currents as it searches for hidden crabs. Picture those sleeping patterns of color and texture as visual representations of memory and experience, the octopus reliving its daily adventures in the safe darkness of its den. The possibility is tantalizing, suggesting that these creatures might have rich inner lives that we're only beginning to glimpse. Communication remains another frontier of mystery. We know octopuses change color and pattern in response to each other, but we're still learning the vocabulary of this visual language. Recent studies suggest that the complexity of octopus displays might rival the complexity of human language, with different patterns conveying specific information about intentions, emotions, and environmental conditions. Some researchers have observed what appears to be regional dialects in octopus communication, different populations using slightly different color patterns to convey the same basic messages. If confirmed, this would suggest that octopuses have something analogous to culture-learned behaviors that are passed from one generation to the next through observation and imitation. The mystery deepens when we consider interspecies communication. There are documented cases of octopuses interacting cooperatively with fish, apparently using gesture and color changes to coordinate hunting efforts. How do these different species, with completely different nervous systems and evolutionary histories, manage to understand each other well enough to work together? Pain and emotion in octopuses present another challenging frontier. We've observed behaviors that certainly look like emotional responses, octopuses that seem to sulk when moved to new environments, others that appear to play with objects for no apparent purpose other than enjoyment. But measuring subjective experiences in creatures so different from ourselves requires new approaches and new technologies. Recent neurological research has revealed that octopus brains are far more complex than previously thought. The distributed nature of their nervous system, with most neurons located in their arms rather than their central brain, creates a form of consciousness that might be fundamentally different from anything we understand. How does it feel to think with 8 semi-independent arms? How does distributed consciousness compare to our centralized awareness? The evolution of octopus intelligence remains puzzling. Why did these creatures develop such remarkable cognitive abilities? Intelligence is metabolically expensive. It requires significant energy to maintain and develop. In most species, high intelligence evolves in response to complex social environments, but octopuses are largely solitary. What evolutionary pressures drove the development of their problem-solving abilities, their curiosity, their apparent capacity for innovation? Some researchers speculate that the octopus's complex, three-dimensional marine environment provided the selective pressure for intelligence. Navigating coral reefs, remembering the locations of dens and food sources, and adapting to constantly changing conditions might have favored increasingly sophisticated cognitive abilities. But this explanation, while plausible, doesn't fully account for the extent of octopus intelligence. The genetics of octopuses hold many secrets yet to be unlocked. Their genomes are remarkably large and complex, containing many more genes than humans possess. Much of this genetic material remains mysterious. We don't know what many of these genes do or how they contribute to the octopus's remarkable abilities. Understanding octopus genetics could reveal the molecular basis of their intelligence, their camouflage abilities, and their remarkable regenerative powers. Speaking of regeneration, the octopus's ability to regrow lost arms remains incompletely understood. We know it happens, we can observe the process, but the mechanisms that control this regeneration could hold keys to understanding healing and regeneration in other animals, potentially including humans. Climate change adds urgency to many of these research questions. As ocean conditions change rapidly, we need to understand how octopuses might adapt or fail to adapt to new conditions. Their short lifespans and rapid reproduction could make them either very vulnerable or very adaptable to changing environments. Understanding the limits of their adaptability is crucial for predicting how octopus populations might respond to continued environmental change. Deep-sea octopuses remain among the least understood creatures on our planet. The crushing depths where many species live make research extremely challenging. Submersible visits are brief and expensive, and many deep-sea octopuses are so fragile that they don't survive being brought to the surface for study. We're only beginning to catalog the species that exist in the deep ocean, let alone understand their behaviors and ecological roles. The Dumbo octopuses, with their ear-like fins and graceful swimming, represent an entire branch of octopus evolution that we know almost nothing about. How do they find mates in the vast emptiness of the deep ocean? What do they eat in an environment where food is scarce? How do their life cycles differ from those of their shallow water cousins? Biotechnology companies are intensely interested in octopus research, hoping to understand and potentially replicate their remarkable abilities. The octopus's camouflage system could inspire new materials that change color and texture on command. Their problem-solving abilities might inform artificial intelligence research. Their boneless bodies and hydraulic movement systems could inspire new robotics designs. But every answer seems to generate new questions. As we develop better tools for studying octopuses, from genetic sequencing to underwater monitoring systems to brain imaging techniques, we discover new layers of complexity, new mysteries to unravel. Perhaps the greatest mystery of all is what octopuses might teach us about intelligence itself. These creatures developed sophisticated cognitive abilities through completely different evolutionary pathways than vertebrates. Their success suggests that intelligence might be a much more common feature of life than we previously believed. If intelligence can evolve so dramatically in creatures as different as octopuses and humans, what other forms of consciousness might exist in the universe? The questions multiply like bioluminescent sparks in dark water, each one illuminating new aspects of these remarkable creatures, while revealing vast territories still to be explored. In the depths of our oceans, the octopus waits with ancient patience, holding secrets we're only beginning to imagine. As we surface from our deep dive into the world of octopuses, take a moment to let the wonder settle around you like gentle currents. Together tonight, we've journeyed through hundreds of millions of years of evolution, explored alien forms of intelligence, and marveled at creatures that seem conjured from the realm of dreams. We've witnessed the delicate artistry of camouflage, the profound devotion of maternal care, and the endless mysteries that still swim in the deeper waters of our understanding. The octopus, in all its eight-armed wisdom, reminds us that our blue planet holds forms of consciousness we're only beginning to comprehend. These creatures challenge our assumptions about intelligence, about beauty, about what it means to be successful in the grand experiment of life. They've been perfecting their art for longer than trees have existed on land, developing solutions to survival that rival anything in nature's vast library of innovation. As you settle into sleep tonight, let your mind drift with the gentle grace of an octopus gliding through a moonlit kelp forest. Picture those intelligent eyes reflecting starlight, those graceful arms flowing like living poetry through crystal waters. In dreams, perhaps we can touch something of their alien wisdom, their patient understanding of a world where flexibility is strength, where intelligence takes forms we never imagined, and where the greatest magic is simply the miracle of life adapting, surviving, and thriving in the vast blue wilderness of our oceans. Thank you for joining me on this journey tonight. If you're already drifting off, then our mission is complete. But if you're still awake, perhaps another deep dive will carry you gently into slumber. Until we meet again in these quiet hours, may your dreams be filled with the gentle currents of curiosity, the soft bioluminescence of wonder, and the peaceful wisdom of creatures who have learned to make themselves at home in the infinite mystery of the sea.